a moment I had been dreading for some time. Mrs. McIntosh approached me in the hallway at the school and asked me if I was speaking at graduation. As you can probably tell by now, my biggest fear is having to speak in front of a crowd of people. Having to give my senior exit presentation in front of around 20 to 30 people was bad enough. Just ask the people that were there about my huge pause, or should I say pauses, in the middle of my presentation. So imagine having to give this speech in front of hundreds of people during one of the most important events of our lives thus far would be a daunting task. Senior exit was supposed to prepare us for speeches like this one. It did a great job, didn't it? When I asked Mrs. McIntosh what I was supposed to write about, her response was pretty much anything you want, which of course only added to my anxiety. Just ask all of my previous English teachers. I'm much more of a math and science person than an English person. But when I sat down to write this, I discovered that I had lots to say. It was actually kind of easy. Of course, writing and speaking are two different things, so we'll see how this goes. It was August 1998, our first day of kindergarten. Even though it was nearly 13 years ago, it seems like it just happened yesterday. There we all were, in our little classrooms, in the little trailers outside the actual school itself, as little kids, just beginning our days here at Madison. It was throughout these 13 years that many memorable things have happened. We got some of the weirdest nicknames, sometimes for no reason whatsoever. I still wonder sometimes how I got the nickname of Kenny, which has lasted since sophomore year. Thank you, Sarah Cheney. Or how we never even call Casey Garrison by his actual name anymore. Instead, he is now known as Billy Bob. Allie Malott has so many nicknames that she probably doesn't even know what her birth name is anymore. As well as many others, J-Rod, Moose, Corncob, Iron Man, J-Foss, Larry, Staff, etc. All these names may not appear on our driver's license, our future dorm room doors, or dog tags, but they will forever be remembered here. Throughout these 13 years, catchphrases were made famous as well. Some were used way too much. Yes, Billy Bob, we know that you are nice to us, that you don't even care. Yes, Han Hart, we are going to do it. No, Kyle, the answer to every question is not Batman. The game, sorry, Billy. And then there's my very own favorite catchphrase, this is garbage. These may not be quoted as often as The Hangover or Mean Girls, but they will forever be made famous throughout these hallways. We also had some very memorable moments with our teachers, such as when Mr. Flieger accidentally played a highly inappropriate South Park video on YouTube for the whole class to see, and the whole class burst out in laughter for a solid few minutes. Or when Mrs. Malott tripped in the parking lot, ripped her pants and cut her chin. There was also the famous nosebleed during the NHS ceremony, tragic ping pong accident of 2010, and the hilarious bumper car accident in the parking lot. I also made some great friends in my time here at Madison, some of which I would have never imagined I would be friends with. Unfortunately, one of them was ended too soon, as we got the awful news that our good friend Chad Miller had passed away in a car accident. It was a tragedy and difficult for a bunch of 7th graders to have to digest at the time, and I often found myself asking why it happened. Then I remembered what Chad lived for. He devoted his whole life to God. Therefore, when we think of Chad, let us not constantly mourn his loss. Instead, let us celebrate the great life that he lived and the fact that he reached his ultimate destination before any of us did. Our high school years were some of the most challenging ever. We got our first real chance to select our own classes and our first real chance to feel like adults. We were offered some of the most challenging classes yet, such as Chemistry 2 and Calculus, thanks to Mrs. Malott and Mrs. Marshall. During our senior year, some of us started to get acceptance letters from many different colleges and notices that we had won several different scholarships. We We got to pull off some great senior pranks where we destroyed some teachers' classrooms. In case some people are still wondering, Mrs. Markle is not pregnant, and Mr. Philpott's truck is not for sale. Now we are here to celebrate all of these accomplishments and end this chapter of our lives, knowing all the while that a new chapter is about to begin. I stand here truly convinced that the class of 2011 at Madison Junior Senior High School is, if not one of the best, if not the best, one of the best to ever walk through its halls. We were blessed with plenty of athletic and academic talent, including 2 full rides to Division I colleges and an Air Force Academy appointee. The numbers are there to prove it as well, as we collected a record-breaking $1,088,000 in scholarship money as a class and were accepted to 47 different colleges. It's probably a lot higher than most of the previous classes could even count. Just kidding. I believe I speak for everyone else in my great class in giving an overwhelming amount of thanks to our families, our friends, and the great teachers and administrators that we have had here at Madison. Now it is our job to apply what they have taught us to the rest of our lives, keeping in mind that we still have a lot to learn. So in the words of Albert Einstein, learn from yesterday, live for today, hope for tomorrow. And that's not garbage. Thank you, and congratulations to the class of 2011.